Hi, welcome back. This is about a brief on testing the login module. Okay, so although I have given this particular thing about login module as an exercise, I'll discuss some of the points very quickly. Okay, so again, what we'll do, we need to identify the features. We have already identified one is registration and one is login. So for registration, we have written all types of test cases like positive, valid, positive scenarios, validation, UI, UX, integration, compatibility, security, performance, and ad hoc testing. Right now, we'll repeat the same for login. So for login, we need to write down positive scenario. So what would be a positive scenario? In login, we'll enter a valid user ID. Okay. So for positive scenario, okay, what we'll do? We'll enter a valid user ID and valid password. So we'll say we have done a registration using user ID Tom underscore Jack. Okay, here you can see, and then password is Monaco1232. Okay, so we have registered with these credentials. So in positive testing, what we'll do, we'll enter valid user ID and valid password to see whether we are able to log in or not. Okay, so in positive testing, we need to check whether if we enter all the valid entries, then we are able to, our functionality is working or not. So in this case, whether login is working or not. Okay, so we'll check positive scenario first, then validation. So what do we check in validation? We'll check negative scenarios. Say the user ID is Tom underscore. So we will enter valid user ID and invalid password. Okay. So we enter valid user ID as Tom underscore Jack, but in password, we instead of at the rate we enter A. So we enter MONACO1232. Okay. Uh, so it should not be able to log in. It should give incorrect user ID or password. Then we should enter invalid user ID and valid password. Okay, then we should try out invalid user ID and invalid password, and then we can try out uh, empty user ID, that is we don't write anything, and then we enter empty password. Again, we don't have anything in the password, and then we tap the login button. Then it should say please enter something in user ID or password. So these are all the basic validations for login. Okay, login is not a complex module, so the number of test cases would be lesser. Now, what is the third thing? We can check UI and UX. Okay, so again, we'll check spelling mistakes, then grammar we'll check, then we'll check the icons or images on the page, then we'll check uh, alignment on the page. Okay, so we'll check all these kind of things with respect to UI and UX. And in UX, we'll check the user experience, that while testing the login, if there is something that hampers the usage of the login module. Okay, then we should consider that in UX as well. Okay, so the next is integration. So what do we have in integration? We need to ask question that if integration testing is possible with login. Probably not, because we have already checked integration testing while doing while we were working with registration module. So after registration, we can do login, but after login, there is nothing, right? Only one small thing we can see is that when we are able to log in successfully, we get the message that you have welcome home. So whether we are getting that or not. So that minor integration we can check, or if we enter invalid values as we have seen in validation testing, then we should be getting proper messages. So this is a small thing probably we can check with integration testing with respect to login. Okay. Now the next is compatibility testing. So for compatibility testing, I think I would again tell you, I would again recommend you to check that particular video, that how to test with web applications, which is there in our course, and we have already discussed about compatibility testing in our registration module, so I would not continue to talk about the same. uh, then the next thing is performance. So again, we can check the performance of when we log in. The login should happen quickly, so we should check performance like that. And stress test and load test, again, it is a part of automated testing, and it is not possible to test manually because we are not able to open 100 browsers and do login at the same time for 100 users. It is technically not feasible. So for this reason, we require some automated tools, which is not possible to do manually. So stress test and load test, please go through the definition what it is. You should be knowing what is the difference between the same, and it is not possible manually, so I'll skip it as of now. Then again, ad hoc testing. In ad hoc testing, we can do something uh, like when we are trying to log in, we disconnect the internet, or we shut down the PC, or hibernate the PC, or so on. So such kind of things where we can uh, break the flow of the working, then it comes under ad hoc testing. But yes, there is one important point. Now listen carefully. We enter user ID, we enter password, and then we enter uh, login button. So when we enter login, we log into the system. Okay. And then say after doing our work, we log out. Now after we log out, say if we press the back button of the browser, what should happen? Should we again get login? So if we are again able to log in, okay, because when we press back button, it takes you the previous page. So our previous page was a valid login, and then we log out. After log out, if we press back button, then again it should go to valid login. Okay, but this should not happen. Our application should restrict it. If you have logged out, then again you can log in the system by manually login into system, not by pressing the back button. Okay, so this is the important thing that we should be checking. Actually, that comes under security. Okay, but we should be testing that under security. Okay, and the last thing is, okay, security testing is remaining. So we'll in security testing, I think some of the things that I have mentioned already mentioned in the registration page. Uh, but there are two things: this back button, which we have already mentioned, use of back button, and then session timeout. So in session timeout, what happens? We enter user ID, we enter password, and then we log in. Okay. But say since 30 minutes there is no activity. After log into the system, say I went for a coffee for 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Okay. So in that case, in some of the important websites like banking websites, or something that is that is to do with some confidential data, if there is no activity after login, the system will log you out automatically. Okay, so if our website or you registration and login, we only have registration and login in our case. Okay, but if it is a confidential website, then we need to check that do we have any session timeout. If you don't know what is the session timeout set by the developers, then you can ask them whether it is 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So you can log in and then stop using the website. Now we need to check that after 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, whatever time that the developer has set up, after that time of inactivity, whether we are logging out of the system automatically or not. So this is really good from security perspective when the website is confidential and has some important data like stock market trading website or banking website, right? So it has to log out immediately after some time. You can also try it out with your banking website. Okay, so these are all the test cases about login. I have given you as an exercise. What you need to do is you need to just open the standard approach and follow all the steps and write the test cases. The reason that we have divided everything is that we can focus. If we are writing test cases for UI and UX, then we are only thinking about UI and UX. Then if we are writing test cases for security, then we are only thinking about the security. If we don't write in a proper organized way, it might happen that we write one test case for validation, then one test case for performance, and so on. So it is very difficult to review the test cases. If you can see in our test cases how organized it is, if you can go at the top, so here we can read very easily that we are working on registration. Then these are positive scenarios. These many test cases are for validation. So it is very clear. We can see and monitor it very clearly. Then all the test cases are for UI and UX, and then for integration testing, compatibility, and so on. So we, if someone comes and review our test cases, then they can easily see the flow that how everything is well divided. Okay, so that is it about login. You can write the test cases, and if you want, you can send it to me and we can discuss as well. Thank you.